This video is sponsored by Kaamos Metal Cruise 2023.
Amassing the bodies and pits as they die, sentient and filthy they rot. Flammable and singing, discarded like waste. For the fire of the handgun, you played it all wrong. And soul and valor.
Welcome to Rauta. Today's opinion is about artists bitching about stupid things, and I have a couple of examples. One is very metal related, black metal related even, others not so much. The other one is all about rock music, but I'll use it as an example because I bumped it up just by accident reading about this Blackbraid incident at Midgårdsblot event in Norway last week. Now, there are already a bunch of different takes on the matter, so I won't even try to dig deep into that. I won't dive into that and go for all the details and all that stuff. For example, YouTuber Boris T already explained a lot of these things from legal point of view and also a lot of other takes about racism and whatnot. But to quickly recap so you won't be totally like out of blue missing what the hell I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Blackbraid, the American native band, black metal band, which were there to perform. And in case you don't know Midgårdsblot, it's basically Viking metal fest combining black metal and folk music together, which means there are a lot of bands related to different kind of folk cultures and all that stuff. So very much like going back to your roots, not necessarily metal at all. And of course this means that artists like Blackbraid is very fitting for that, because it's not just about Vikings, it's about going to your roots, being whatever native you are and all that stuff. Now, come to this festival and everything goes nicely until at least some of the members, or at least one member, I am not even actually sure and goes behind the scope and point of this video, was laying on the ground. And it seems like it wasn't just, like, hey, I'm here, just sipping my beer and all that stuff, but more like maybe passing out or passed out or whatever. Now then comes the security, which is there to escort out, because obviously, at least in Nordic festivals, as much as I can tell, that is totally like out of boundaries. Because if you're passed out, nobody can really tell you whether you're dead, sleeping, or passed out because of excessive use of alcohol and all that stuff. Which means if that's what you're doing, basically sleeping in a bar, passed out in a bar, which is technically speaking the very same thing as festival, you are to be escorted out. Why? Safety reasons. Because of course the security and all are responsible for whatever you do. So let's say you are sleeping there because you had too much alcohol, that is technically speaking passed out. Then you, for example, you end up vomiting, and maybe, I don't know, choking on it, dying. You get the idea. The festival would be responsible for, the death and all, which would be tragic in so many ways. Now, obviously, these cannot be allowed because of legal restrictions and all that stuff, which essentially means that people will be escorted out if they pass out on a festival or bar for that matter. So this is what happened to Blackbraid. And now, obviously, people get pissed, when they are like, passing out and then they get escorted out. I mean, this is something that happens every goddamn festival I've seen. Not every festival, but I mean, not the first or second time I've seen this happening. People just consume too much alcohol or other substances, and then they are unable to take care of themselves, and then they are escorted out. Like I said, there are a couple of ways you can just, cope with it. First, you can say like, oh man, this happens to me, and then go about your business. I don't know, go for another bar and have fun with your friends elsewhere. I mean, obviously, when you're not in shape for the festival, then you just do something else, right? Well, then there is a more aggressive way. You can just challenge the security, and that never ends well, as you all probably know it. That's like challenging the police because you feel you've been indiscriminated by something and all that stuff. Now, this is what Blackbraid decided to do, which was silly, of course, by default, but not like just like that. Hey, why are you tossing me out? I'm an artist. Play the artist card or saying like how important I am. But no, they went for racism, which is of course very silly. I mean, this is a festival that tries to be really safe space for all kind of cultures, despite your religious, cultural backgrounds and what have you. Not to mention different skin tones, who cares? The thing here is, when you play that card, it seems so fucking desperate how you are. And of course, you can become the target of ridicule. I mean, everybody's like, you are not going to be taken seriously. This is not America. And Boris T, I think, explained this very, very well. I mean, now get this. What happens in the United States, everything seems to be so black and white so often when we read on the news. And here it's a different politics. And of course, racism is often, used there as a real excuse or for real reason. I don't really care because that once again goes beyond the scope. But when you do that at the Norwegian festival, which is very much like, let's be all happy family kind of a thing, and maybe too much for a lot of black metal bands, then you are really, really doing a silly favor for yourself. Now, but this is not about that. My video is all about why did you decide to do that, Pat? Because obviously later on, after multiple social media posts, what Blackbraid been doing, there are lots of comments if you want to dig it. Maybe some of them are deleted, but for example, Boris T video will be showing them. The thing here is, first you accused on all that security and the festival and blah blah blah, and then you later on post apology. You're like, okay, sorry, I misbehaved myself and blah blah blah, which makes the whole thing go, I don't know, inverted. And in my opinion, this kind of proves how silly the first initial reaction was. Because instead of sobering up and go about with your friends, let your emotions cool down and all that stuff, you get happy just like, okay, this was a disappointment. I got tossed out of the festival where I was as an artist performing and all that stuff. And now I'm out of there because of substance abuse. I mean, if you cannot handle alcohol or whatever, well, maybe you should just figure out that one rather than, accuse a festival and security people for unable to cope with the rules and laws and regulations. So this is a good example what you shouldn't do as an artist. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of companies, big companies usually have PR representatives who are there to just, take care of the communications, public relations, PRSDs. And the point here is, if you are frustrated, angry and all that stuff and you go shouting all that bullshit online, you will become a target of ridicule. Yeah, fans will defend you, but once they will learn more facts about the whole thing, it will become just like a fucking joke. This already happened to a lot of bands in the previous years. And now we're talking about black metal, not some pop music where everything is like, supposed to be super nice and all that stuff. I get the feeling, if you can't handle the heat, stay the hell out of the kitchen. And that's exactly what happening to Blackbraid. I mean, come on, this is a rather new band that just got hyped up because of their native background and all that stuff. Even New York Times was writing an article about these guys, even though the music is not like nothing out of ordinary in the sense. And then you got all this hype and, boost coming from beyond metal, and people are suddenly like, okay, I need to find out about this music, I need to find about this band, read about it, listen to it and all that stuff. You have all the hype, you have the great bubble going on, and then you just take this stupid racist needle and pop, and it's all gone. What happens in essence is, for example, what could happen, or what happened to a band like from Rauta, who were complaining about the heat on stage and like, we can't perform because it's too hot. I don't know if you remember that case, but that was all over the place for a while in the black metal scene news, and it kind of showed like they're the people who cope with all kind of, real deal bullshit and all that stuff, cancellations and all that stuff. And then there are more privileged people who make, all this stupid ass complaints. And a lot of people I had talked about this stuff, a lot of people kept saying, which I have to agree with, is that maybe you're not cut for this scene. Maybe you should do something else. Okay, maybe we'll let slide because it's just one silly mistake, but nonetheless, it's a good example, like what you shouldn't do with your social media. I mean, if you're an extreme metal artist, maybe you should think twice before going all about it. Now for the second example, this is not metal related as I said, but nonetheless as silly, maybe even worse, even though this is not related to racism, but this is basically calling out your fans in a silly way. Hayley Williams of Paramore was, suffering from a throat infection and had to cancel gigs. Well, at least had to, but that's how it was announced. I mean, I can totally understand why. But a lot of people were like saying like this is not a good excuse to cancel your gigs and tours. basic criticism. Now, once again, you have two ways to handle it. You could say like, okay, this is my call, this is my ban and all that stuff. So you either accept it or I don't, can't do much about it. And okay, see you on tour, have a great time, blah, blah, blah. You could do it just in a way that all the fan points would get to you. Whether they are your fans or possible future fans, you would get the better things of it. I mean, whenever the people criticize your decision and second guess it and make like, I think you could have pulled off the show and you could just say, no, I want to offer you a triple A treatment. I want to offer you the best. So if I have a problem with my throat and I cannot do the show, you just better wait and you will get that perfect gig later on. I think you could have said it in many good ways, interesting ways, so that everybody would be like, okay, that's a cool excuse, that's a cool explanation what's going on, okay, we understand, you get better and all that stuff, see you later. What instead she decided to do is basically call her fans, or the possible future fan, incels. Now, as you might know, incel is not exactly something nice to say about people, but it's a direct insult. So when you go insulting your fans who don't necessarily agree with your decision, I mean, of course, that's some very much minus points towards your fan base. Now, if I was a possible, like theoretically speaking, if I was a future possible Paramore fan, I would be like, get the hell out of here, chick. This is not something that I want to get to listen to, get to read about, because I feel like if you're talking to me like that, sister, get the hell out of here. I'm not interested in your bullshit band anymore because your very, I don't know, obnoxious ways of talking to the fan base is something that I just call piss off and die. Seriously, I mean, I'm not offended because of this, because I'm not a fan of Paramore. I don't really care about the band. I don't hate it, I don't like it, but if there was a difference of liking and disliking, I would be definitely on the disliking side of the things, because why would I like a band member who has this cocky, arrogant, obnoxious attitude towards the fans? Like I said, you gotta have said it multiple different ways and everything would be nice and cool. But when you act like this, basically calling your fans or other people, other bands' fans, incels, like, yeah, it's not gonna fly good ways when it comes to your bands. Now, if I was her band member, I would be, shut the hell up, chica. You have no place to say things like that because we're trying to make this whole thing work. And by thing, I mean band and business. Because it's not just band members who are making their living out of it. It's also about the rest of the crew. You know, the technical people, who help the whole thing go on. And if you're losing fan base, if you're losing shows and all that stuff, well, it essentially means you're destroying your business from inside. That's not something corporates would do. And when it comes to corporates, people would be just fired. If this was a PR person, she would get fired. But obviously she is protected by being the very core of the band and all that stuff. So sometimes, as you know, artists can say a lot of bullshit and still get away with it. But as you have learned probably from #MeToos and what have you in the world, I mean, there's a limit how much bullshit you can do and still get away with it. Just ask Kevin Spacey and see how it goes. Now, this is my short take on some of the bullshit that artists do and what they really shouldn't be doing. We'll be following closely later on how Blackbraid drama evolves after this, how Paramore gets away with this kind of bullshit. But I always say, keep your ears and eyes peeled, be critical, always question. No matter how big of a fan of a given band and artist you are, always question their bullshit. Question my bullshit. And if you can cope with it, if you can live with it, whatever the people, whatever the artist, whatever they say, and you're cool with all the lyrics, all the statements and all that stuff, go being a fan. But if you find that bullshit arrogant, too cocky, too obnoxious, something that you won't definitely agree, what makes you pissed, just walk away from that. That's your choice to vote with our hard mind wallet. You have it. Take care and see you with more Rauta content coming your way. Take care. Bye bye.